All right, Nicole, thank you for doing this. First question is, what does success look like to you?
Having time to spend the way you want to spend it.
Can you elaborate a little bit on in what ways do you want to spend your time?
With family, traveling.
Okay. Next question. What's one big change you'd make to the firm right now if it were only up to you?
Uh, I would I would roll out a partnership program immediately.
Oh, interesting. What would that be? I'm curious what the partnership program is.
So we have had amazing attorneys here who have really given it their all for many years now, and it excites me to think that they could buy in and we could grow the company together. I think we've gotten to a point where we're a little bit bigger than uh, two people can handle, and we just want to I want to be able to roll out this partnership structure where attorneys can buy in if they've been with us for a certain amount of years, and they would own less of a percentage than Caleb and I would. But I just think it'd be nice to have a larger think tank and brain power behind some of these next moves that we have for growing the firm in the future.
It's very interesting. At some point, I'd love to hear more about that. That sounds like a really cool idea. But the next question, I got to make sure I keep this down to 20 minutes. I've got so many follow ups I want to ask you, but I got to keep it within 20. So I'm going to give you a magic wand. So I'm telling you the exact same thing I'm telling everybody else. So I'm going to give you a magic wand, and you get to decide what the firm looks like in 15 years. And so describe what the firm looks like.
We have a department for everything. Each department has more than one head. So where you have a head, but it have like a team. So it's not just one person that knows how to do the management from the top. And then, of course, a team underneath them. I would like to have more than one practice area that's built up. Right now, we have one that's extremely built up and a few other areas that we're trying to build up. But I'd like for those areas to be at the same level that we currently operate in this practice area that is the bulk of our practice. And I'd like to be in multiple states and have similar office structures in those states as well.
What states do you want to be in?
Colorado, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina, Texas, and maybe California. A little ambitious, but maybe California too.
I like it. Very interesting. At some point, I want to hear about how you chose those states, but not right now. Later on. Who would you say is the boss of the firm? And I'm not talking about titles. I'm really talking about when it comes to really who makes the decision. When it comes down to it, who's the boss?
I would say I'm more of the boss. Of course, Caleb is as well, but I'm more in the day to day. I think people come to me for decision making a little bit more than they go to Caleb.
What do you think that is?
Because I'm really passionate about it, and I think people can see that.
Okay. How did the idea of the two of you working together first come up?
So Caleb and I met in law school. We were friends for a very long time before we started dating, and then eventually got married. And it wasn't until we had our first kid that I convinced him to leave his firm and join my firm and work together, because I had been out on my own since law school, and I just saw a tremendous opportunity if we were to collaborate. So it was, around 2019 when we started working together. And that was, a time where he was home a lot because our son was born, and we were kind of just, two attorneys living under the same roof, just talking about cases and bouncing ideas off of each other. And that's when I just convinced him, it was time. He was trying to hang on to, oh no, I got to settle a few cases first. And, but then I finally got through to him, and we started working together, and that's how it came up, really.
Was there any specific thing that happened that convinced him to finally make the switch?
Uh, well, I think it helped that he had a referral source that was using him exclusively, and he knew that it would be enough to support him if he were to go out on his own. And I was really eager to help him with the practice. So I think he knew that if he were to leave, he would have business, and then he would have someone to help him work it and tackle it with.
Here's where it starts to get a little dicey with the questions. Okay, so I'm going to warn you. What's one thing you wish Caleb would stop doing in the business?
Yawning during meetings.
Tell me more about this. Is this a problem?
It's I wouldn't say it's a problem because I've actually never brought it up to him. I've kicked him under the table a few times, but yeah, he's not a big fan of meetings. He does it because it's necessary, but he can just it we can see it all over his face when he's either not into it, or thinking about other things that he needs to be doing, or just didn't get enough sleep the night before or something like that.
Very interesting. We'll have to maybe dive a little more into that in the joint session. Describe Caleb's work style in one word.
Unrattled.
Oh, that's a good one. It's the first time I've heard that one. So that's good. Tell me what you mean.
He's calm, cool, collected always, which is a great balance for a lot of the attorneys here. He doesn't get super stressed out. I mean, he could be preparing for a trial for the first time ever to try a case, and he's not stressed about it one bit. He could be dealing with difficult clients, difficult opposing counsels, difficult scenarios that you deal with as an owner of a firm, and he is almost never bothered by it. And yeah, he's just not stressed at all.
What's one way you and Caleb butt heads at work?
I've actually been pretty good. Um, Maybe when I try to bounce an idea off of him and have him try to help me with the decision making, and he is kind of nonchalant about it, doesn't really seem to care whether I say yes or no, or make one decision over another. He's kind of a little bit more hands off, so maybe we butt heads where I'm like, want him to be a little bit more hands on.
Okay. What's the biggest business decision that the two of you have disagreed on, and how did it play out? And I know you said the two of you, for the most part, have been pretty smooth, but I'm sure there's been something that's come up as you since you've started the firm that maybe has led to some disagreement where one of you had to kind of put your foot down.
I have fought for an employee for many years, and Caleb maybe didn't see the value that I saw in this employee. So it was a lot of me trying to just convince him, like, that we should keep this person, pay this person more, and he ended up being right, but it's definitely something that we've butted heads on. And this person was an integral part of our business and had a very executive type role. So it was, something that came up often.
Interesting. Do you think, I guess, where do you think, why do you think you fought so hard? And because you said he was right. So I wonder, like, if you had blinders on, or what do you think, I guess, what made you wrong about it? Why were you wrong and why was he right?
He's more big picture, and I do think I had blinders on because I was really using this person as like my go-to right hand, assigning a lot of things, delegating things to this person. So it was I was just closer to the situation than he was. So I think I just maybe was a little bit more. I don't want to say manipulated, but didn't see like the big picture like he did.
Gotcha. What are the rules about talking about work at home or during non-office hours?
We don't have a set rule. We try not to, but every now and then we get a moment when we are alone at home or like in the car, driving somewhere, and we usually know when it's the right time to talk about work. And, we could just talk about it for hours, or we just don't talk about it at all.
Does one of you tend to talk about work at times where it's maybe not as appropriate, or whenever the other one's not really expecting it?
I don't think so.
Oh,
We're
very
both pretty
good.
good about it.
Nice. That's excellent. Really good. Tell me about a time. You don't have to give me too many specifics, but tell me about a time you had a fight at home that affected your day at the office, or vice versa.
Um, Okay, so one morning I was getting ready for work, and he can be very much of a jokester at home. So he was just probably trying to annoy me, and I was probably trying to get ready for an important day at the office where we had like a big meeting, and I had to be on my A game. So I just wanted to focus, I was being really serious, and he was just kind of pestering me at home, pushing my buttons. And then I probably said something not too nice to him. And then that caused a fight where he was like, hey, you're crossing the line. And, then I got to work and, don't like leaving the house like that. Um, got to work and was more thrown off by, the way that we left things as opposed to, if I would have just joked around with him or something. So, um, yeah, that's like a typical morning in our house where he's just joking around and I'm trying to be all serious.
You're trying to get your game face on, and he's, yeah, he's just joking around, messing around. So I get it. What would you, I guess, how would you describe Caleb's leadership style, and what would you tweak about it?
He's very like he builds kind of like a family environment around him. He's very, very generous. He's a very generous boss. And as far as leader, I would say maybe uh, if he could be a little bit more proactive and structured in his leadership, I think it would go a long way. He kind of just, as it comes to him, has like natural leadership skills, and he has great quotes, and he can be motivational. But if I could tweak it, it would be, let's channel that into a way we can make it a more structured and part of your daily routine so that we can get you out in front of as many people in the firm as possible, so you can rub off on them.
Got it. Probably good advice. Where do you think that Caleb thrives in the business?
His legal abilities, I think, when where he's in unique legal situations, more complex cases, when he's challenged, when he's, you know, more like hearings, anything in court, I think that's where he thrives.
Do you think that he spends most of his time doing that, or do you think too much of his time is spent on doing other things?
Other things, I wouldn't say he spends much time on it. I mean, we're trying to work on the business, not in the business. So, he doesn't take that many cases anymore. So, it's difficult because he needs to do like higher level things. So it's hard for him to have a full caseload and be going to court all the time and
Yeah, I
settling
think
cases.
that
It's not something he can really do that much of anymore. So yeah, no, but he really doesn't spend much time on it. I would say 10 hours a week, maybe.
what's something running a law firm with Caleb has taught you about your marriage? I think it's funny your pause and your smile. It was like
Like,
probably shouldn't say that. So I'm very curious about what you're about to say, but I don't believe it was. You're about to say whatever the second thing was, because the first thing I feel like you're not going to say what it is. But anyways, go ahead.
no, I think it's taught me a lot of humility, and I think that alone like goes a long way in a marriage. If you know, married couples are always building resentment towards one another, where it's like, no, I feel like I do the dishes all the time and I'm always cooking dinner and I'm taking after the kids, or it's I have to do all the work and bring all the money home, or, it's taught me that you can, you have to have respect for one another in the marriage, as well as in partnerships and at work. So I think, I've learned a lot working with him, just as far as like patience and respect goes.
What's one thing you wish Caleb really understood about you and how you operate?
He knows this about me already, but like words of encouragement, words of affirmation, like I love hearing that from him. So this is just a reminder to Caleb that I do love to hear that from him, especially. That's where the words matter the most, is from the people that I love. So, just if he could remember that from time to time, because he's not really like that. He doesn't need to hear that from me. So
Have you read the five love languages?
I have.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, Caleb, if you've not read it, you need to read it. So I'll remind him whenever it's his turn to get on here. But all right, do you want to go get Caleb and we'll start with
I will
him?
go get him.
All
Yep.
right. All right, Caleb, you ready to get started?
Yep,
Okay. So I got a question. Have you read the five love languages?
I have.
Okay, good. So I don't need to send you the book. I told Nicole that I would send you the book if you had not. Or I said I was going to bring it up to you. I was kind of thinking I'll send it to you. That's good, because when the joint session, I'm going to ask you about the two of those. But first question. So first question is, what does success look like to you?
Good balance, work-life balance, creating something meaningful, you know, finding satisfaction in what you do and your work product, creating value and putting it out into the world.
Okay. Creating something meaningful. What do you mean?
Um, Doing something or producing something that has a net positive impact on not just yourself, or not just your company, but the community, or the world at large, perhaps in sort of a macro definition.
All right. That makes sense. I'm going to ask you about a big change that you'd want to make in the firm. So what's one big change you'd make to the firm right now if it were only up to you and no one else?
Well, are we talking about a change that I can make and it will happen, or like a change, like a direction that I want to take, where we would be going that, is going to take some, logistical hurdles to get to?
Either way, it's your magic wand, right? You get to do whatever you want. So you get to make whatever change it is. So it's really whatever you want to do.
Hmm. Well, I think if eventually I would like to get to a place where I can be doing more work that some might consider almost activism, almost like issue campaigns, politically driven uh, projects, whether it be getting red light cameras removed out of Orlando or um, some sort of low income housing project or something like that. Didn't Nicole explain to you what we do and what we're in the business of?
So we during these we don't get into all that because we I do that in more of we'll do that in the beginning of it. But so no. So the listener will have by the time they're listening to this, they'll have an understanding
Right.
as to what you do.
Right. Yeah. No, I would love to be doing more issue campaign type of work eventually. That's kind of why I went to law school, and I kind of fell into this area, and I've been doing it now my entire career, and it's very satisfying and rewarding, and we're doing good work, and I do get a lot of meaning out of it, and we help a lot of people, but I would like to eventually get back to sort of the issue campaign kind of focused work. So that would be kind of a long term um, magic wand direction that I would like to wave and go. Short term, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I wish I could pay everybody that worked for me $1 million. You know.
Be nice. So this is another magic wand question, right? So you get to decide what the firm looks like in 15 years. Okay.
Mhm.
Describe what it looks like.
Offices in multiple states. We would have maybe 10 partners or so that we can promote internally. Larger scale, helping, I think the number that last year and the year before, we think we resolved about 1,000 cases, give or take. I think it was around 1,200 the year before. Um, so yeah, just more reach, more bandwidth, more clients.
What states do you want to be in?
Colorado, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, um, Texas.
Okay. All right. I want to know who's the boss of the firm. And I'm not talking about the titles or anything else. I'm talking about when it comes down to making a decision, and whoever has the final word on it, who's the boss?
Once I was in Marco Island, and I was working on a Hurricane Irma case. This is in 2017, and I was sitting at a seafood restaurant, and this older gentleman, at 50s age, pulls up in a boat with his family, his wife, and his kids were grown, and his grandkids were there, and there was hardly anybody else there. So he sat next to me, and we started talking, and at the time, I was working for another firm, a medium to large sized firm, doing the exact same thing that I do now. And I had been thinking of going on my own, and Nicole had been on her own since law school, and she had been persuading me to leave and go on my own as well. But I had some large cases, multi-million-dollar cases, which I had a pretty significant financial interest in, and I wasn't ready to leave until those were done. And at the time, I remember I was talking to this guy, and he was telling me about how he had started a business with his wife. And at the time when they started, they had normal corporate square jobs. They had small kids. They were in debt. They went into a whole bunch more debt to start this business, and everybody was telling them that they're crazy. And it worked out very well for them. And had this amazing life, and he was on this awesome center console yellowfin, and just chilling in Marco Island, and I was kind of just getting some advice from him, and he was saying, this is what we went through, and everybody thought that we were crazy and told us that we were crazy that when we did it, because of the timing and everything else. But if you can make it work, it really is the best thing ever. Because if you've already got a life partner, if you can, you know, be in business with them too, why not? So with that said, there's certain things in our business that will fall on me, and it's my decision and only my decision. And there's certain things that fall on Nicole, and it's her decision. It's only her decision, and I stay out of that stuff, and she stays out of the other stuff. So I think it's pretty difficult to say if there was one person who was the boss. But we always kind of joke around that Nicole's the boss. So I think there's some truth in jest there.
Okay.
But she might say opposite. I don't know.
Okay. We'll find out in a little bit. How did the idea of the two of you working together first come up?
Um, I think it was all Nicole, to be honest. I think it was her idea, and she brought it up, and she continued to bring it up. And eventually, when I was ready, we made it happen, and we went about it slowly at first, and then our first child was just a few months old when I went on my own, and after he turned 2, she came to work full time, and that's kind of when things really started to take off for us.
That seems like a very stressful time. Then you're leaving another place. You're coming to work with a spouse, and you've got a newborn. Was it as stressful as it sounds?
We also bought a house, and we had got married just slightly. We got married in 2000, November 2017. Bought a house in May of 2018. Our son was born in November 2018. Left the firm, started the new firm in March or April of 2019. So there was a lot of things happening in a short period of time. And, looking back on it now, I don't feel like it was any more or less stressful than I'm sitting here today, to be honest. Yeah.
That's good. That's a
Yeah.
good thing. Especially it doesn't seem like it was like a traumatic event for you. So that's good.
Yeah, yeah. One of my gifts, I guess you could call it, is this stuff doesn't really bother me as much as it bothers other people. I do get stressed out sometimes, like for trials and things like that, but um, I kind of have a unique ability to compartmentalize and not worry about these things.
What's one thing you wish Nicole would stop doing in the business?
Making me work so much. I go play golf. No. Stop doing so much. Uh, that's tough.
And remember, she will hear this.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I can make a lot of jokes right now. Um, I mean, there was a time where I thought we were not that we never really have spent a lot of money on advertising compared to some of the other firms that are our size. I think we spend a very small amount of advertising per compared to what our revenue is compared to a lot of firms that are our size. There have been times in the past. I don't think I feel like that right at this moment, but there have been times in the past where I thought that we were taking on too much, or maybe that we were expanding too fast, hiring too many people, taking too many new meetings with new potential clients or referral sources. And, I might have disagreed with her at those times. I think right now I wouldn't really feel that way if she wants to do it, if she wants to do it to expand. Um, I'm okay with that. Yeah. And it's hard for me to think of a specific thing that I can't that I would wish she would stop doing, to be honest. Yeah.
Hey, so you have a very sensitive mic. Will you take the paper out of your hand and put it on the desk?
Oh, sure.
So
Sorry.
it's funny because I don't think most mics will pick that up, but for some reason your mic is very sensitive. So
Wow.
I was like, wow, but it wasn't. It was just for a short amount of time. All right,
Sorry
we'll
about
keep.
that.
No, you're completely fine. You're completely fine. My guess will probably clean that part of it up, but I just want to make sure in case we can't. So not we can kind of take care of that part. But all right. So describe Nicole's work style in one word.
Entrepreneurial.
Explain what you mean.
Uh, well, her dad was an entrepreneur. He was a developer here in town and ran many successful businesses. He's mostly retired now, and her mom owns and operates two hair salons in town. So, as well as several members of her family have, she comes from a family of people who are entrepreneurs and start businesses and run and grow businesses and that sort of thing. So she looks at the business from that point of view. She has a much more of a business oriented perspective than I do.
What would you then? How would you describe your perspective?
I'm a big picture guy. Um, I I kind of just see where things are going. I see trends and patterns and try to, align our our goals and our vision with the way that I think the wind is blowing.
What's one way that you and Nicole butt heads at work?
One thing in the business.
Yep.
Hmm. Let's see.
I mean, it could be as simple as someone doesn't empty the dishwasher in the kitchen at the office or something. But
Well,
I
there is
mean,
no dishwasher.
damn.
Yeah. Um, Let me see if I can answer this without embarrassing myself. Uh, I guess maybe the handling of the extremely difficult things that come up, maybe such as firing people or hiring people. All of the litigation stuff usually falls on me, so I don't expect her to do any of that. Yeah, I would say just like the difficult administrative type things that can't be delegated.
It's fair. Of the things that you have butted heads on, what would you say is the biggest business decision that the two of you have disagreed on, and how did it end up playing out?
Yeah. Of course, I was right about all of them.
Of course.
Um,
There was one. I not to give you too much. There was something that you all
sure.
disagreed on, and she said you were right. So you
Yeah.
have you have a recording of her saying that you were right. Just so you know.
So this one is kind of is just fresh. So I'll go ahead with it. May not have been the biggest, but we just recently moved offices, and I have worked in law firms since I was 20 years old, and I've assisted in law firms moving before. So I said we are going to outsource this move, no matter the cost. I will not be involved. I'm not going to be involved no matter what. Whether we try to do this internally or we outsource it, I'm not moving a thing, um, because I've made my stance known. I don't care the cost. Pay it. Let them do it professionally. We tried to cut corners and save money because of operations manager that Nicole sided with. And to make a long story short, we should have gone my way. We're in the office now, and it's beautiful and fine. But the amount of money that was saved, I think, in the long term was negligible compared to some of the difficulties that we experienced during the move.
Got it.
So that'd be one. That's the only one I can think of off the top of my head.
What are the rules about talking about work at home or during non work hours?
Now that is okay. So there's one that we butt heads about because she wants to do that all the time, and I'm like a hard stop. Like I won't even entertain the most elemental questions if I'm punched out. Not that we're ever really truly punched out as a business owner. I'm looking at emails late at night, early in the morning, and stuff too. But yeah, I'm definitely guilty of you know I don't want to say blowing her off, but she wants to talk about something, and I'm just like, look, I'm done. You gotta table this for now. So yeah, that's yeah, we're butting heads about work, about talking work after hours or at home. That's probably the most common thing, most common.
Do you actually have set rules where like no talking about work at home or in the bedroom, anything like that? Are there any set rules that you have?
No, no, nothing's set in stone, but usually from the time that when I try to never let my kids see me on the phone.
Oh,
Um, so if I'm at home and the kids are home, like I'm not working.
I like that. That's a good rule. I'm not very good at that, but
Nobody is,
that's
and
a good
I'm
rule.
not perfect at it. It's
Yeah.
just something I kind of strive to do.
Tell me about a time you had a fight at home that affected your day at the office or vice versa.
Hmm. We just recently lost someone, had to let someone go, however you want to say it. She had worked with us, this person had worked with us since the beginning, and it was a very difficult separation. It needed to be done, but it, had a pretty heavy emotional toll, especially on Nicole. They were closer than I was. And so something like that, when that happens at work, you don't escape it at home. And ultimately it's for the better at work. I think the environment is much better at work, and we know that we made the right decision and she's happy with it, but it was pretty emotional last couple of weeks or so. We wish her the best, and it was a difficult decision, and she really helped us a lot, helped the firm a lot, and it was bittersweet. But yeah, I mean, it does happen. I can't say, Nicole and I are pretty good about um, when we do have disagreements or arguments, or if you want to call them fights, we can usually let them go pretty quickly. I don't think we've ever really had anything that we didn't weren't able to resolve before we went to sleep that night.
It's good. Very good. What would you tweak about Nicole's leadership style? Or what? How would you describe her leadership style, and what would you tweak about it?
Mm, hmm. This would be a good question to ask staff. She's a very good negotiator. Um, just kind of has a commanding presence, and um, high self monitor, a lot of good qualities of a leader. One thing I could tweak about her, I think she works too much. She needs to go to the spa more, get some
Okay.
hobbies.
Okay. Um, where do you think that she thrives in the business?
Client relations, clients love her. She, yeah, people, she's good at selling.
And do you think that that's where she spends most of her time?
That's what we are trying to get her to spend most of her time on. We are trying to get her to work more on the business as opposed to in the business. But there's
What's
yeah, there's still a lot of day-to-day admin stuff that she's involved in because there's just, it's a big operation, you know.
sure? What's something that running a law firm with Nicole has taught you about your marriage?
Hmm. Man, I'm just blessed. We're blessed. It's honestly, I don't know if ever in my wildest dreams I would have imagined that it would have worked out this good. You know, it's a different kind of happy, I guess. You know, I was very happy when our son was born and I left the firm and I had 30 cases and no employees and our profit margin was like 75, 80%. That was awesome. I didn't really have to do anything. But now we're servicing way more clients now. We're provided a better life for ourselves and our family. We've got an awesome team here who loves to work here, and we take care of them. And we've created kind of this whole little culture that kind of supersedes our own individual selves, and that's kind of a special thing. I don't know if that answers your question. I guess things things evolve, and you have to be ready to adapt and ready to change and grow and learn and adjust. And yeah, I think you could look at marriage and business sort of the same in a lot of those regards.
What's one thing you wish Nicole really understood about how you operate?
Mm. I think Nicole understands me perfectly. We've been married since 2017, and we were friends for like 6 years before that. So we've known each other now for a good bit, and we were very close friends before we got married, and so I think that there's not a whole lot of misunderstandings when it comes to her and my professional career.
The interesting things there was when you talked about success. It was interesting. The states you all both said very similar things about success, but also like the growth of the firm and where you went ahead. The states were different, though, if I remember correctly. I didn't list all of them. So, Nicole, what states did you want to be in 15 years?
I said New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Alabama, North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas, and possibly California.
Okay, they were similar. I don't know if you had the northern states,
I
Caleb.
didn't
Did you?
say She didn't say Colorado. We're already in
Well, we're
Colorado,
already in Colorado, so I
but
didn't
we're
say
not making any money there. So
no, true.
I'd like to make money there.
Hmm.
Gotcha. So I did find that part interesting because you had the northern states included in there, but yeah, Colorado was missing as well. I thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting because you there's a common trend, and I kind of picked up on this from talking to both of you. Nicole, you're very serious, very business oriented, and I feel like Caleb, you like to joke a lot, and you're more like the fun guy. Is that kind of how things are?
Definitely.
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 Do you feel like that has caused some strife in the firm?
In the firm or at home?
Oh, I guess both.
Not so much at the firm, although I think probably there are some times where she's like, "Oh, you just joke around and everybody loves you, and you make me do all the serious stuff." And that's why I was saying, like, probably the difficult things are the most difficult things and butting heads are the distribution of the administrative type tasks that nobody wants to do and that we can't delegate. Because yeah, I'm a lot less. I don't want to say less serious, but yeah, I'm kind of more of a playful personality when it comes to this.
Nicole, anything to add?
I agree with him. Not really anything to add there.
Okay, so who's the boss? This answer was funny to me. Who's the boss?
Answer.
It's there's it's we're both 50%, so we're both kind of equal in terms of voting shares. You ask anybody, I think anybody would probably say she's the boss.
I'm the boss.
Yeah. So you
It was
go do the next trial then. I'll go on a golf trip.
So Caleb, here's a question I have for you. Is it hard for you to admit that? Is it because it seems like it's hard for you to admit that Nicole is the boss?
Well, she's not really though.
So, and I listen. I'm not going to pry anymore. I think it's fun. If the employees, who would the employees say is the boss?
They
That's a good question.
they would say
We should do an anonymous poll.
You
no,
totally should.
they would say I'm the boss.
Probably.
They tell me all that all the time.
A lot
Not
of
in your
but they all
presence.
call me boss too.
Interesting.
I'm going to move on because I don't want to cause any strife. But I think you should do an anonymous fun poll and
Okay.
and just see what your people say.
She'd win for sure.
Yeah. So the big change in the firm, this was interesting. So for Caleb, so I think you're both very mission oriented, but I think that Nicole, you are very business mission oriented, and Caleb, you are more, mission oriented when it comes to you want to change the world almost. It seems like, does that sound accurate?
Yes.
Yeah. I wouldn't say world, but I know what you're like more
Making a difference.
Issue driven.
issue driven. Sure.
Yeah. How do you think, how do the two of those fit together when it comes to the firm?
Well, the business driven is primary. Obviously, none of this could exist if it wasn't for the business angle to it and the mission. The issue driven aspect of it, I think, is secondary. Just from a like strategical standpoint. Not to say that the money's more important than putting roofs on people's houses or something like that, but in terms of that's not necessarily the mission that I'm referring to. I'm referring to something a little bit more deeper than that.
Yeah. Well, don't you think, I mean, I think that they could work together and if you think about, what's the name of is it Tom's, the shoes where you buy a shoe, you give a shoe. But I do think, I mean, don't you think there's a world where you could do something like that where the business side builds the issue side?
I think that's what we're doing. I think
Okay.
that's what we're doing. Right. Yeah.
Do you both feel like you're on the same page when it comes to that?
Yeah.
Yes.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Is it something that's like codified where like we're kind of like the shoe thing, right? Where you buy a shoe, you give a shoe. Do you have something like that set up where so much revenue goes to some sort of cause or something like that?
We don't have a set budget on that sort of thing, and we do oftentimes we'll have either we'll all go volunteer as a firm or we'll give money to various causes or charities and things like that. But I think more importantly for this conversation are the model of our business where we're recovering insurance funds from carriers and giving it to homeowners so that they can put their home back in the shape that it was in before the loss. There's a Robin Hood aspect to it. And so, I think that we are fighting the good fight much more so than, say, the people on the other side of our cases who represented, multi-billion-dollar insurance companies or, other areas of law where it's, transactional or, things like that.
And Nicole, you'd brought up the partner program. And is that something that you all have discussed previously, or is this something that if you were to mention it now, it's something that Caleb would have been hearing for the first time?
We've discussed it. We've touched on it briefly in the past, but more recently it's becoming more of a main topic of discussion. And, it's something that I'm trying to drive and push forward. So, no, we've talked about it plenty.
Is there any pushback from you, Caleb, when it comes to that?
No, I want to do it. I want to do it. This has become such a large operation that for it to just fall on the two of us, it's too difficult and time consuming, and our kids are growing up fast, and the sooner we can do this, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. So I'm curious when it comes to like conflict resolution with the two of you, like if an issue comes up so sometimes you'll have like a couple that they get in a disagreement and then they just kind of move on from it. Sometimes some people have to kind of go through a process. How do you all usually deal with conflict and disagreement about things?
Well,
No one wants to take it.
hopefully it's something that we can talk out, because that's really the only way that these things get resolved. Um, if a third party mediator needs to be brought in, a referee or something like that every once in a while, if it's pretty extreme, we've gone that route. But yeah, I can't think of any secret other than just kind of talking it out, and
Mm-mm.
somebody's got to apologize typically,
Yeah,
even if you're not in the wrong.
right. We typically talk it out, no
Yeah,
problems, but Caleb likes to say that I like to apologize in creative
creative
ways.
creative apologies. Yeah. Sometimes they're like months later, in front of, like, we haven't even discussed, maybe like we just stopped talking about it, and then like several months later we're like talking in front of some friends, and she says, oh, and I did this and he was right, or something like that. Yeah.
That's I think I've had some similar interactions with my wife, so I get it.
Yeah.
Um, there's some other things. Let me kind of go through these quickly because I know we're a little bit over time, but I want to make sure I get through some of these things. Um, so the biggest business decision, it came up at different times that you all disagreed about, and I think you all were talking about the same thing. And Nicole, you had brought up the employee that you all had disagreed about, and Caleb, you had brought this thing up in the move. Yeah, are we talking about the same employee that was involved? Because you had mentioned, I think Caleb, the employee was she the operations manager? Is that the same employee that ended up?
Yes.
Yeah, and I did find it was interesting how it was brought up because Nicole, you brought it up as like that was the big disagreement. I think Caleb, you brought it more as because it was more of a recent thing because it was tied to the move in some way. And I can't remember how we got to that, but that's kind of how it came up. Um, but I did find that it was interesting how connected you were to her, Nicole, but you both came to the same conclusion that it was the right decision.
Hmm.
Can you all, either one of you, I know this, it seems a little fresh, so you don't have to go into too much detail, but what do you think the reason is that it was the right move?
It's just for the good of the firm. Bottom line, there were this the morale of the firm was is greatly improved now by this move. This move was necessary, and it was a move that we were almost afraid to make for a long time because there were a lot of things that we were relying on this individual for that neither of us had even the know-how nor the any kind of desire to know how to do any of the things that she was doing, and it kind of just seemed like, whatever, like we can put up with you know a few complaints here and there, so about some minor things or this person's personality, because it was just training all over again. The amount of time that we put in, it's cost benefit analysis, better for us to keep her. When is this going to air, by the way? I hope she doesn't listen to it and just get real salty.
Yeah, and that's what I won't be too. We're probably 3 4 weeks out. I think 3 weeks out. So yeah, there's gonna be a little bit of breathing room between the two. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, no, I think this is something that has been going on for a long time that Caleb has, I think he saw it more than I did because I was really the one delegating a lot of things to her. Caleb wasn't really relying on her much at all. And I also more recently started pressing some people for information because I was frustrated with the work product. I didn't feel like the the performance was there for a while, and I was a little bit fed up and started trying to pry for more information. So as soon as I started showing that open door to people, I got feedback that really blew me away. And, it was just something I knew I had to do. And it was something I had to rip the band-aid off, as soon as possible.
Yeah, actually, now that we're mentioning this, so there were times in the past where I think I had expressed that we should probably go in a different direction, and I knew that she didn't want to do that, and so in the last few months or years or whatever. There's been a lot of times where I don't, I didn't, maybe I wasn't necessarily covering for her, but I would see things or hear things or notice things, and I wouldn't even bring them to Nicole's attention because it's just going to be like, oh, this again, like,
Right.
it's not that serious. We'll just, let it ride.
Well, I'm glad you're happy with your decision, and so I know it's kind of tough. I think anyone that's run a business for at least a few years, you've been through this a very similar situation. So I know it's tough, but I think you both, it sounds like you took a very objective approach to it. Like, this is what's best for the firm. And so I think which ultimately is probably best for the marriage as well, because
Mhm.
sometimes you bring that stuff home and it can kind of get frustrating.
If anyone, I would say if ends up listening to this who's, starting out or trying to get to the place that we're at, I would give them the recommendation, especially for like when you're a husband and wife duo as owners, being able to remove emotion from any kind of business decision is really going to help for clarity and efficiency and a lot of things. So, just keep that in mind when you're surrounding yourself and putting together your team. Obviously, you want to care for these people like family, but there do have to be certain parameters that go along with that. So, you don't end up being manipulated.
Mm-hmm.
Good advice. So the decision to work together, and it sounds like, Nicole, this is something like you sort of it was your idea. And I know that, like, Caleb, you had some financial things that were kind of tied up that you had to get resolved first. But other than that, either of you have any reservations about potentially working together, partnering with each other?
No, like it's not for me. Like I told you about that conversation I had in Marco Island, and it always just kind of stuck with me. And I didn't get the guy's number, and we never talked again or anything. I couldn't even tell you his name, but I just always remember being like, that this guy's living the life I want to live. He told me, if you can do it, you got to do it. That's the ticket. And yeah, there was really never much hesitation for me. I just wanted that that condo case to settle. It
Mm-hmm.
never did.
Yeah. Oh, dang. Nicole,
Sorry.
did you have
Just
any
no,
reservations?
no, not at all. Caleb is extremely smart, and I have always wanted to learn from him. Uh, he not just about law, but various topics. So he was always someone that I went to as a resource. So I thought it would be incredible if we worked together. So I was excited about it, and I knew I got to spend more time with my best friend. So I was no reservations whatsoever.
Love
The
it.
Snook Inn. The Snook Inn. That's the name of the restaurant in Marco Island. If anybody's ever down there looking for inspiration, just go sit at the bar at the Snook Inn. Wait for somebody to
Nice.
come.
Yeah, you really will never find a partner that is a better partner from a business standpoint than a spouse. You just won't, because like they're there with you. Like they're not leaving. They're not going to try to take a bunch of cases from you. Like, they're building it together. So I do think it's such a powerful strength. It's yeah, I know there are people that do have reservations about it, but if you get the right mix, it just, you have to kind of figure things out. At least me and my wife did. We had to kind of figure things out a little bit at first. How does the dynamic work? But once you get past that part, you'll never find a better partner. Did you all have a similar experience? You kind of had to feel each other out a little bit first.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we've
We
had
quickly
help.
learned our strengths and weaknesses,
Mhm.
and we just played on that.
Nicole, and this is going to be my last question. What's one thing Caleb is amazing at that you'll never match?
Being funny.
I can be super funny. um,
Dancing.
Dancing, no. But I don't know, maybe his ability to cold plunge, meditate, just just the way that I mentioned before that he's unrattled. I think just remaining calm under pressure is something that I wouldn't say I'll never be able to do, but it's my blood gets boiling a lot easier than his. So I think that's definitely something that he's better at than me.
I did find that interesting because, Caleb, you did say you do get nervous and like prepping for a trial and that kind of stuff, but it sounds like it's like a duck on water, like where like your feet underneath are paddling, but no one else sees it. Because you did say you're able to compartmentalize, but Nicole, I do think he gets a lot more nervous than what you might think he does. He just don't see it. He doesn't show it to you as much.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same question for you, Caleb. What's one thing Nicole is amazing at that you'll never match?
Like the negotiating and like the business sense. Like Nicole ran our pre-suit division for a couple of years, and just like the numbers of the cases that she was settling and the amounts that she was getting and the relationships that she had built with these adjusters on opposing counsels, and they were um, just like, sending her Christmas gifts and settling all these cases. And no, I just couldn't believe it. I still to this day, I don't think I could run pre-suit nearly as good as she has, or probably closing new clients too. So like selling referral sources, that kind of thing.
All right. That's all I have, but thank you both for doing this. I know it's not the most comfortable thing to do with some of these questions, but hopefully you're able to go back and listen to this a little bit and kind of, build off of it and, build a stronger firm and better relationship.
Awesome. Thank you for having us on, Tyson. It was a lot of fun.